In the grand palace of Oba Oyewusi, ruler of Owo, lived a young and wealthy prince named Tunde. Admired by many and desired by even more, he had everything: power, wealth, and prestige. Yet, despite all he possessed, Tunde longed for something money could not buy: a woman of true character, humility, and kindness. His parents, Oba Oyewusi and Queen Moremi, urged him to choose a bride from one of the noble families, suggesting some beautiful, accomplished young women for his consideration. Yet Tunde refused time and time again. "They see my title, not my heart," he had once confided in his mother. "I do not want a wife who loves my crown but not my soul." One evening, as he strolled through the palace gardens, an idea struck him like lightning. What if he concealed his identity and sought love as an ordinary man? A young African prince disguised as a janitor, wearing a simple uniform and holding a mop, seems like a great idea, he said. Among the many businesses owned by the royal family was Crest Holdings, a prestigious corporation. One of its most promising employees was a young woman named Teni, brilliant, ambitious, and undeniably beautiful. Tunde had heard much about her. "She has the mind of a leader," a royal advisor once said. "Confident and driven, perhaps she is the kind of woman fit to stand by your side." Intrigued, Tunde disguised himself as a janitor and began working at the company. Gone were his royal robes, replaced by a simple uniform, mop in hand. He moved quietly, observing the people around him, especially Teni, a confident and well-dressed African woman with a dismissive expression, ignoring those around her. Teni was warm and charming with her superiors, flashing brilliant smiles and engaging in effortless conversations. But with those beneath her, she barely acknowledged them. One day, as Tunde mopped the corridor near her office, he accidentally spilled a small bucket of water. Before he could apologize, Teni stopped in her tracks, clicking her tongue in irritation. "You should be more careful," she snapped, barely glancing at him before stepping around the mess and walking away. Tunde stood there, gripping the mop, disappointment settling in his chest like a stone. Is this truly the woman everyone speaks so highly of? One afternoon, as Tunde cleaned near the reception area, a cheerful voice broke through the hum of office chatter. "Teni, let's go for lunch." A young woman entered, her presence warm and inviting. She wasn't as striking as Teni, but something about her genuine smile, the way she carried herself with quiet grace, made her stand out. Teni barely looked up from her desk. "I'm busy, BC. I don't have time to waste like you do." The woman BC laughed lightly. "All right, it'll wait a bit." As she glanced around, she noticed Tunde struggling with a stack of cleaning supplies. Without hesitation, she walked over. "Here, let me help you," she said, lifting a small bucket from his load. Tunde froze. In all his time working here, no one, not one person, had ever stopped to help. "Thank you," he murmured, searching her face. BC smiled. "It's nothing. Hard work is honorable." Something in Tunde's chest stirred, a feeling he hadn't expected. Over the next few weeks, BC occasionally visited Tanya at the office, and each time she greeted everyone with warmth, whether it was the CEO, the receptionist, or the janitors. She never looked down on anyone. To her, people weren't defined by their positions, but by their character. Tunde knew then that he had found something rare. A few weeks later, the royal palace sent out invitations for a grand banquet, hosted by none other than Prince Tunde himself. Teni was ecstatic. She twirled in front of her mirror, admiring her reflection. "Finally, I'll meet the prince. If he sees me, maybe hell fall for me," she whispered excitedly to a colleague. When the night arrived, the grand hall was ablaze with golden chandeliers, the scent of jasmine and fine wine filling the air. Every major employee of Crest Holdings was in attendance. Teni scanned the room eagerly, her heart pounding. Where was the prince? Then a hush fell over the hall. The royal family appeared, adorned in regal attire, and at the center of them all stood Tunde. A grand royal banquet in an African palace, with Prince Tunde standing before a stunned crowd. Not a janitor, not an ordinary worker, but the Prince of Ilowo. Teni gasped, "That janitor? He's the prince?" Her mind raced. Had she ignored him? Had she been rude? A wave of regret tightened around her throat. She took a step forward, but Tunde's gaze was elsewhere. His eyes found Bisi, who stood near the back, elegant yet unassuming. Before the entire hall, Tunde spoke. His voice was steady, yet filled with emotion. "For months, I have searched for a woman of true worth, not just beauty, not just intelligence, but kindness. A woman who treats all people with respect, not only those who can offer her something." Teni straightened, a confident smile creeping onto her face. Surely it was her. But then, and I have found that woman. Tunde turned to Bisi. "Bisi, will you honor me by becoming my wife?" A stunned silence filled the room. Teni's body went rigid. No, it should have been me. Bisi's eyes widened. "You mean me, Your Highness? Tunde smiled. "Yes, you. Because in my lowest disguise you showed me the kindness that many denied me. That is the woman I wish to stand beside for life." Tears welled in Bisi's eyes. Her hands trembled as she nodded. Yes, I will." The room erupted into applause, cheers ringing through the air. Tunde took Bisi's hands, his heart full. Meanwhile, Teni stood frozen, her face pale with disbelief. The prince had seen her, but not in the way she had hoped. As she watched Tunde and Bisi bask in their happiness, regret gnawed at her heart. She had been beautiful, she had been intelligent, but in the end, she had failed the most important test, the test of true character.